Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines 2 and welcome back to Columbia County. In today's episode, we are going to be establishing our first lumber industry in Columbia County. It's nothing too crazy and nothing too fancy, but it is essential for the financial safety and security of our new empire. Once that's out of the way, we're going to be placing Morrissey's, which is a supermarket that came with the UK region pack. And just down the road from that, we're building another apartment complex on the waterfront. It's going to look amazing. The views are going to be to die for. And we're also going to have a new suburb. This one's going to be a lot smaller than what we've built so far, but it's going to be filling in a really important space. Not all that far from Morrissey's and those apartments, because all of this is going to make up a single new district just opposite our existing waterfront apartment district. I would be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about the fact that we are losing quite a bit of money every hour. And if we have a bit of a look, we are losing $150,000 every month, which is particularly bad. Now, a part of that is the service trade. We are importing electricity, and I would imagine that a part of that is our 22-ton deficit of coal, which means we are going to have to import coal for our power plants and any industries that happen to need it. We're also importing things like rocks and metal ore and crude oil. We are importing wood as well. And I'm sure if we go down here, yeah, we have a deficit of petrochemicals, deficit of electronics. We have deficits across the board, and that's, well, it's a little bit problematic, but it's something that we can figure out. It's something that we can absolutely deal with. And I think that's kind of where I want to get started today, because in all honesty, I don't have a grand plan for this episode the way I did for the last one. This one's kind of, well, it's probably going to be a little bit more chaotic than the last one. Not that the last one wasn't, just this one's probably going to be a little bit more doing this, doing that, doing the other. We're just going to try and do things to fix our money situation. And the first way I'm thinking of helping a little bit, or potentially helping a little bit, is by coming over here with a little gravel road into about that spot. And we're going to just put a forestry industry out here. And that's hopefully going to deal with all of our need for wood for quite some time. That's the goal anyway. And I figure this is probably a good spot for it, since we have got some pretty good looking forests in this area that happen to conveniently appear between this episode and the last one somehow. Not really sure how that happened, but these things, they do happen. And with this thing in place, we almost have the full 23 employees that it needs. It's running at 104% efficiency, and I believe it's profitable as well, which is absolutely fantastic news. Now, I do want to unlock this building to make sure that it will level up if that's a thing that it's going to do. And if we have a look into our production, we're doing pretty well for wood production, meaning we're not going to be importing any more of that, which is fantastic news. That's kind of the point of this. And I also like that this thing's relatively understated. I like that it's, you know, it's just here. It's just chilling. You'd barely know it was there if I hadn't just focused on it for the last 5 minutes. Now, what I would like to do is just tidy up this farm a little bit. I want to bring this surface back to about there. And I'm going to just bring it back to about there as well, just to give myself a little bit of space, because I do want to put some trees in there. I like having trees alongside my roads. And I realized I can do a thing recently, and this might not be news to anyone but me, but it's very cool regardless. So for the last little while, I've been using this preset group, this custom set of trees, to just sort of put all of my trees around this map and on my Townsville map as well when I'm showing off new stuff for the game. And basically, you can just control click a bunch of trees, and that's how you select a bunch to put down with the brush. Obviously, we all knew that. I didn't know that you could do the same thing with the line tool. Yeah, that's news to me. Again, this might not be news to anyone but me, but it means I can go in here like this and just paint in a line of varying trees, and then go in here and do kind of the same thing like this. And it's obviously a bunch of lines of trees, but it looks cool. And then I can just go in and like drop a couple of random trees here and there to break up the lines, so it's a little bit less obviously a set of lines of trees. I didn't know I could do that. And that's very cool. That makes my life a lot easier for all the little lines of trees, the varied lines of trees that I put along all of my roads. There you go. It just looks like I've got trees going around that farm now, which is what I wanted. I don't know. I'm sure everybody knew that uses that mod. I didn't. And maybe if you didn't, now you do. Now, something else I've been thinking of doing is starting to work on this space in here. So on one side of the map, we're adding a bunch of trees. On this side of the map, we are going to be removing a bunch of trees so I can work on this space in a way that's going to be a little bit easier to manage. I don't love doing this, but it does make it easier. And as I've said many, many times, I do like having a nice little canvas to work with and then going back in later on and adding a whole bunch of trees. And that's also going to mean getting rid of this surface. We don't really need that right now, although I do want to put that back in here or just put a farm in here at some point so that we can actually have some productivity out this way. I'm trying to be really mindful of the fact that we can't just take land from farmers. I am by no means trying to be super realistic with this series. That's not my goal, but I like having little things like that, you know, being mindful of somewhat realistic policy when it comes to taking land from farmers and things along those lines. Now, to connect these roads together, what way do I want to do this? I do want a little farm in here. I think that's going to be kind of important. So I think this guy is going to come up to about here. And I'm thinking I can just bring these a little closer together and then get a very, very slight and gentle curve to connect them together like that, which looks pretty solid. I'm doubting that anyone's going to use that as a way to kind of get to the highway quickly. So yeah, we're not going to have to worry too much about that. And this is honestly a pretty good space for a little farm. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that. Now, in building this and in laying out this space, I'm not super keen on just filling this with industry. I do want it to sort of look cool, so that's still going to be important to me. And I've also been thinking that I might add this supermarket that was added as a part of the UK region pack, just because I think it makes sense. I don't know what it is, but every time there's always supermarkets close to industrial sites in the UK anyway. This map is obviously not the UK, but I just, for some reason, that always happens. I guess it's because there's just a lot of land and a supermarket is basically just a big warehouse, a glorified warehouse, really. So I'm kind of thinking of putting this out here somewhere. Not 100% sure where it's going to go yet. But if we look at it, this thing is what, 10? I want to say maybe 11 tiles back. I want to rotate it is what I'm getting at. So I think what we'll do is go to, so if that's 6, that should be 11 there. Is that going to be wide enough? It absolutely is. I'm thinking of putting it there, basically. So you've got the side of it right here, which is fine. This land's a little bit, you know, sloped, but that's fine as well. And then this road can just go out to here and essentially straight across there is what I'm thinking. So straight across, we'll take that part out and we can decorate this little lot back here. We can maybe take out these hedges and extend some of these surfaces around a little bit, but that's kind of where I'm thinking that supermarket can go. And it does have some benefits. It does reduce import costs by 1% citywide. It increases attractiveness by 1% citywide, and it gives +5 well-being within a kilometer, which, I mean, it's not that far. A kilometer is, well, actually, yeah, these guys are going to be quite happy with a supermarket across the river. So that actually does have some pretty good benefits. And you know, just thinking about it, I might put some apartments over here, not super high-end apartments, but just little apartments kind of similar to what we've done before over by the other industrial site. So I'm going to just double up this road a little bit, and this will be some kind of little green space in front of the supermarket. And I'm going to go in here and change this into an avenue, which I realize might be a little bit weird, but there is some method to my madness, because I'm thinking that we change this into a one-way road, this into a one-way road, and we just go ahead and connect this over something like that. So it kind of loops around. You got to go up and around to get to the supermarket, or you got to come in this way to get to the supermarket. That just seems like a good idea. I don't know if it is a good idea, but it seems like a good idea. So that's kind of what I'm going to go for. And I think I'm also going to do 3 lanes right there just to make life a little bit easier. And then when it comes to these apartments, I'm sort of thinking something similar to these guys, which means we're going to be using, once again, the UK region pack to make that happen. And we do have some options. We have UK high density housing, which all things considered, I don't know that I want to do over here. So I think I am going to try and avoid that. And I think we will go for the medium density housing. Now, I'm also looking at this land and realizing I probably want to flatten this out a little bit. It's a little rough looking, so we'll go for a slightly smaller brush. We'll go for a much stronger brush. And you know, I was thinking that I wasn't going to place these by hand, but then I found these buildings, which, all honesty, I think they look pretty good. They got a really nice brick texture on them, and they're pretty large as well, which is fantastic news. And there's a variant of it that has parking in front, so I can kind of play around with that a little bit. So I think what we'll do is the 6x4, we'll do the 6x6 and then the 6x4 again, which I'm going to have to swap out some textures on these. And that just gives us a whole bunch of apartments over there. That is going to just boost the population a fair bit. We can have 75 households in here. This thing is full already. Same with this one. Same with this one. Each one has almost 100 residents. These guys do have over 100 residents. And I do want to just unlock the levels on these as well so they can upgrade as time goes on, because I think that's going to be important. And I think what I'm also going to do is just go in here and swap out some surfaces to maybe make it look a little bit more interesting. So we'll try this dark gray ceramic tile. And does that look okay underneath the parking? I don't know that it does. I'm not too sure about using this underneath the parking. I'd like to try though, because I think it would look kind of cool, but maybe just to keep things simple, maybe we should just stick with this. We'll do the same for this parking. We'll do the same for this parking. And then maybe we swap out the paths for something like that sandstone tile or the gray. Ooh, definitely not that one. I think that one kind of works. The buildings being brown though, I'm inclined to go with something like this. And I'm also thinking I might be a little bit cheeky and bring a little alleyway just around the back of these guys, because I realize these guys being 6 tiles across, I can get a couple of tiny parking lots back here, which, I mean, these buildings do have their own parking facilities, but with, well, 75 households per building. Yeah, I think we're going to need a little bit more parking here than we currently have available. In saying that, they do feel a little confined by that. I don't know that I love that, but I'm thinking with some trees and some kind of key wall across here and a bit more detail into the space, I think we can make this work. And I might change up the pattern a little bit as well. I think I might, as much as I like the parking on this, I'm very tempted to swap it out. Well, all of the buildings for this one, just because having it back from the road does seem a little bit nicer. Okay, so I got really into just detailing this space a little bit. It's not super detailed. It's not really as much as I would usually do with spaces like this, but I like how it looks, and it should give us a nice, just a little nudge to the population. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy, but it's still bringing us close to 20,000 people in Columbia County, which is pretty good. It's been a bit of a crawl to get there. I'm not in any rush to get there. I'm not trying to get there. If anything, I'd like to have a little bit more time before we do get there, but it might end up happening today. I'd also like to look and see where exactly our air pollution is going, just to make sure that we don't have wind blowing towards this new development, which is absolutely fantastic news. My only concern with this development now is I don't know what's going to go around it. I did mention wanting to put some farms out here. I would still kind of like to do that. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe we should just do a little bit of commercial zoning back here. That might not be a terrible idea. We could also do a large petrol station out here next to the supermarket. That kind of makes sense as far as I'm concerned. That does bring import costs down even further. It does improve attractiveness even further across the entire city. And it gives us even more well-being within 1.5 kilometers. So I want to say that a little petrol station here might not be a bad idea. And I'm thinking, what way do we want to orient this? I'm kind of thinking right there is going to be where that thing can live. Can I change the color of it? Apparently not. Well, that's actually a good point. Can I? Ooh, I can. Do I want to is probably the other question. I'm not sure that I want to go for a super bright, vibrant red, but something a little bit darker I can absolutely get behind. I don't know what this is. That's the, oh, that's the yellow. Ooh, okay. I think we'll stick with a kind of bright yellow on this. I think that's probably a fair shout. It kind of has me tempted to bring the brightness of those bricks down a little bit further. And then I want to see if I can change that other. Oh, I absolutely can. Okay, here's what we're going to do. That is going to be as bright a yellow as I can get, which apparently I can't really get. So we'll go for, can I get a green? I can get a green. I think that kind of works. I'm okay with that. That seems like a decent little color scheme for this thing. And does it match the main supermarket? It almost does. Okay, yeah, I can get behind that. That looks like it kind of belongs to the same supermarket, which is great news. I'm wondering if I want to do more parking next to this, and I don't know that we need to. I think there's enough parking here for the supermarket itself. I think it'll be okay. You know, I said I wasn't going to do more parking here, but I'm thinking that I could probably get away with a little something like this. And I think that's okay. I think we can kind of make that work. I would like to get rid of this part, and I would like to maybe shrink that down a little bit. I don't think we need that much parking next to the petrol station, but I think something to about there seems fine by me. I don't know why there would be that much parking back there. It's maybe a little bit weird, and I probably could just do a regular parking lot, but at least with this thing, I'm kind of hoping to do this and actually surround that with a little bit of a key wall, which is doing some weird things with the shadows, but I'm sort of okay with that. I don't really mind it too much. And that's going to keep it enclosed when I probably put some farms or something out here. And that actually reminds me, I might use this as our access road for a little bit of a farming area. I'm actually wondering if it would be worthwhile to swap this out for an alleyway. And looking at it, it really might be. I might also just swap out the road itself and leave a bit of a gap there between the petrol station and the road, or I could just maybe just move it to grab the entire building and shuffle it down so it fills in that space, which might be even better. So it just lives right about there. And then maybe I just bring this down a little bit as well. That might not be the worst thing in the world. Just bring it into line with everything else. Let's see if we can grab some segments here and just sort of shrink this thing back just a teeny tiny little bit to, I want to say about there is pretty good. And so with a little gravel road out here, I think we'll do some livestock farming, since I know we have a bit of a deficit on that. We also got a new signature building out of it, which is absolutely fantastic news. And I think we'll just do this as simply as we possibly can. I'm just going to bring this right back to here for now. That's not what I want to do. Right back to there, there, and there. And do I want to do any other type of farming out here? I don't know that I do. And I don't know that we necessarily should either. So what I think we'll do is use this pedestrian road just to lay things out a little bit so I can maybe get a nice little tree line between everything that I have going on here. So we'll bring this out to, I'm going to say about there. I'm thinking we go a little something like this. And I'm thinking we go a little something like this and this. That'll be our tree line. These guys will need connected together, and I'm going to try my best to get a little bit of a curve going to do that, although it looks like it's going to be tricky. So I'll tell you what, let's just not bother doing that. We'll just bring it out to here, and we'll just do something like that. That'll be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be, it needs to be believable as a nice little kind of sharp thing that we have going on. That's my goal. I'm trying to stick to that idea that this land is sort of dished out in very kind of square sections, very angular sections and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm going for. So I think I'm going to do the same across here. I think that's maybe a good idea. Maybe a little bit further, so it's a little closer to the water. I think back here is better because I can get more trees between the water and the farm itself. And obviously it's me, so that's important. And you know, I don't think that looks too bad. I kind of like the trees around it. I like the little farm in there. I like that it's going to give us some livestock, which is something that we did have a deficit of. Well, not a deficit, but we didn't have much production, and now we have a little bit, which is fantastic. Now, I've been looking at this space and trying to figure out what I want to do with it, and I think the easiest thing to do here is going to be to just make a little bit of a suburb. I don't want to go crazy with a suburb here. I don't want to do anything huge, but I think just a little something, just a few little dead-end roads here and there, a few little loops here and there, just a few little things that we can do to kind of bring these roads out, fill in this space. That's really all I'm particularly interested in doing, is just filling out this space a little bit and getting some houses in here. I'm not too sure what style of house we're gonna go for yet. Haven't really figured that one out, but I'm sure it'll come to me soon enough. I'm also thinking I'm gonna come down to about here. I want to say about there. And we're not going to build anything on the roads around these apartments. That's something I'm going to be very, very particular about, which means I might come down this way as well, which would give us some very small buildings in there. So maybe we'll go a little bit further and go to about there. That'll give us some slightly larger buildings. If I go one further, maybe we'll turn on a grid snapping and do something like this. Should give us a pretty decent little, well, yeah, that should be a decent amount of space. I'm sure that'll work. We'll just redo this road to get the zoning at the bottom of it to work properly, which it apparently doesn't want to do. That's fine. And I think that'll be okay. This space in here, I'm considering something similar, or maybe just doing this. We'll just do a little square and we'll fill it in with a little alleyway just going through the middle there. Might do more apartments. I don't think I want to do more apartments. It might be something a little bit different, but we'll figure that one out. And I do think a lot of this space is just going to be filled with trees. I would like to do some commercial down here. I might even do slightly higher density commercial just to try and block the view of the industry, which apparently has a lot of buildings. Oh, interesting. I might have done this a while ago. I'm pretty sure I saw a comment talking about the fact that I did slightly mess up some buildings in here. So I think that might be the one in particular that the comment was talking about. It's fixed now though, which is great. So this has wound up being one of the very few times that I've used the UK semi-detached housing since the UK region pack came out. It's never been something I wanted to zone. With the detached housing, you can kind of get away with zoning it because they're all standalone and they all look pretty decent. They all kind of work together. The semi-detached houses though, I don't know what it is. I think they just look better when you kind of have a street lined with the same houses, and then you have sort of, you know, different houses dotted around a neighborhood, but each street is at least sort of the same style of house. I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but it just looks better to me. So that's kind of what I've gone for here. And hopefully it sort of does the job in this space. At the very least, we are quite low on residential demand now, which is great news. In worse news, we're still not actually making any money, which has me pretty concerned. I kind of really need to figure out where all of our money is going. And I mean, to be fair, We do have a college that doesn't have that many people and is costing us 135,000 per month, which is more than, I mean, if I turned the college off, we would make money. This thing is also costing 44,000, basically between the college and the train station. Yeah, no wonder we're losing a little bit of money. The good news is that the supermarket doesn't cost us anything. The petrol station doesn't cost us anything. So it's not the end of the world. We're just in a bit of a tricky spot, but you know, this is coming together. I kind of like how this space is looking. I kind of like it as a little, just as a little neighborhood. It's something a little bit different. It fills in this area quite nicely. And I mean, the view across here is not as bad as it used to be. It's still not done. We need to detail across the water and we need to fill in all this space, but we're getting there slowly but surely. And I think as a part of that, I'm going to go in here with some EU low density businesses. So we're going to just line here and here. I'm kind of being deliberate with not using the full 6 tiles available here. We're going to go a little bit smaller here, a little bit smaller down here as well, and a little bit smaller just to about there. This is going to let me put some paths around this, but it's also going to let me play around with some trees, as you know I like to do. And I think that's got rid of most of the demand that we had for commercial zoning, which is good. Now, I'm not expecting anything super interesting with these buildings. I'm not expecting it to look all that exciting or all that unique, but I'm thinking I can put some details around it and make it look okay, which is better than it looking boring. And I'm also wondering if I want to be a little bit cheeky and just put another petrol station next to these guys. Go for like the really small little petrol station. In fact, we have a few places we could do things like that. We have like out here, we could convert this little road into a little petrol station. That might be kind of interesting. We could do similar over here. We could do the same out here if we wanted to. I'm actually slightly tempted to do that. I'm not going to lie, because it does give us some citywide bonuses. And to be fair, a little petrol station in the middle of nowhere is not unheard of. Like a little petrol station just off of this main road here. That's not a bad idea. And it is 1% less on import costs and +1 attractiveness for the entire city. It's not a bad idea. It might be cheeky, but I don't think it's a terrible idea. I could even just do it over here, right at the edge of the city, or right in here in the middle of my industrial sites. Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. It does feel a little cheeky to just throw them around and sort of spam the signature buildings. I do want to place a lot of these as well, actually. We could do that as well. This all brings down import costs. And to be fair, we have a little neighborhood here that I want to say a little pub on that corner there might be kind of cool. So something like the Heath could be interesting if I could get it to rotate properly, which apparently it doesn't want to do. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But this might be a good shout, or I mean, one of the other ones as well. We have this guy, we have this hotel, which is a beautiful looking building. I think it would have to be facing the water though for it to really look the part. And you know, I think I kind of want to do all of these. So this hotel is going to live here, and I'm going to use move it to just shuffle it down to this lower road right about here, which is exactly where I want it to be. I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit smaller so that this little thing here could stay, this little alleyway, which is unfortunate because it's not. So we're gonna have to bulldoze you and then use move it to put this back in that corner, which is exactly what we're looking for. I want to get it right on that corner, and I want to make sure that we're covering up any gaps around it, which I think we are. I'm not going to do too much to change this thing. I think it's a pretty great looking building as it is. I might just tidy up some of the details at the front here. I do sort of want that pub though, so we might have to deal with a little bit of a weird junction here, which isn't really the end of the world. It's not like it's going to have a lot of traffic on it, although I sort of have an idea that might give it a bit of traffic, but I want to do this as well. I know it's a bit odd. We've got the hotel and then we have the pub, but yeah, you know what? That is a bit odd. I think we're just going to do the hotel. I think that's what we're going to stick to. And I think I might also keep that little road back there, but then just go to here. I want to do this. I want to do this, and I want to do this because I can put parking back there. And I think we're going to do a little S-bend here just to try and connect these roads together. So we'll get our guidelines. We're going to turn off pretty much everything else. I do need angles for one, but I want to go out to about there, up to about there, and over to about there. And that seems pretty solid. It's a bit of a weird road, but I'm kind of okay with it. This is going to go away, and I can just do some parking in this space. I can do some landscaping in this space. And then over this way, I think we're just going to do a path. And I was thinking about doing a pedestrian bridge across here because I've noticed, I don't know if we're going to see any. Oh yeah, there's loads. People are walking alongside the regional road, which is really something I'd rather they didn't do. So a little pedestrian bridge in there might be a solid bit of infrastructure to stop them from doing that. It might be a little bit safer for people to use that rather than, you know, walking alongside a highway. Which is where this little bit of path comes in, because we would probably connect to this path for people to, you know, basically not walk alongside the highway, which is, again, kind of important, I think. You know, zooming out and looking at this, I'm actually quite pleased with it, even though it's really, really simple. Like, we've just filled in an empty space with another bunch of housing, some apartments, some semi-detached houses, some generic commercial zoning, and a little hotel, but I actually like this a lot. I think it kind of fills things out just the right way. We're kind of bringing some density across the river, but not too much. We're kind of feathering things out into the region. I think this is a nice touch. We're also making a bunch of money, which is great news. Not really sure how that came about, but we are making a ton of money. We are still spending a fair amount on imported electricity, which I would like to do something about. But the fact that we're making a bunch of money means I can do something about that. It means I have the money to go and buy some tiles, and then we can start mining some coal, and I mean, we can get another power plant as well. We can start doing things now that we're making a whole bunch of money, assuming we continue to make all of that money. I'm not 100% sure that we will. Although on the topic of buying tiles, I am going to pick up a couple. I want to grab this one, and I want to grab, I want to say this one. I don't know that we need it, but I would like that coastline. That is going to be 62,000 per month, which we can absolutely afford. I'm grabbing these because I do want to start getting rid of this industry maybe in the next episode, so that we can maybe put another little suburb in here, as well as some more services, because it seems like healthcare might be struggling just a little bit. And that expansion will probably be, I know I've said this before, but that will probably be the last big expansion for Blackwater. I would like to keep coming back into this little town and settlement. I want to, you know, flesh out this space a little bit as well. And, you know, by no means are we going to be done with Blackwater, but that's the last big expansion that I have in mind. And I think getting a little suburb into this space, maybe some industry just around the edges here, and a bit more industry around the water, but that should be Blackwater more or less done. And then obviously, you know, a few more trees and a few more farms will certainly help with that. I don't really consider the rail yard a part of Blackwater. We will still detail this, and that will still be its own little project, which is fine. And I would still like to come out here somewhere and build another little town, obviously the town of Bryan, which is going to be a little mining town that's also going to have trains going through the middle of it, because I think that's such a cool idea for an entire little town to be built that way. I think it'll look absolutely fantastic. Now, it's probably not a bad idea to bring some buses out here so people can get a bus or get some kind of public transport out to the supermarket and out to this general district. So I think a little bus stop right about here should cover most of this suburb. And I think the bus can kind of continue down and maybe stop. So it comes around here. It can go down this road. I think it can stop either in here or in here. And I'm kind of inclined to say that in here is a good little spot for it. That should cover most of that commercial. And then what we're going to do is just bring the yellow bus line out to here. And then we'll bring it sort of down and around to here as well. Now, can I get you? Oh no, it is going to loop around that way. That makes sense. Maybe it should just do that just to make life a little easier. So it kind of goes down around that way. That seems pretty good. And that'll probably make that yellow bus line a little bit more popular. It was never particularly popular, but that should help it a little bit. And looking in here, we have 44 passengers waiting. I want to have a look at my bus lines real quick and see how they're doing in terms of usage. So 228 or something passengers on this one, 58% usage is pretty solid. That's kind of what we want to see. Only 18% on the green line, 20 on the blue. 52% on the yellow line is fantastic news, and I do imagine that is being influenced a little bit by this new district, which I guess is also going to need a bit of a name. So as we do, suggestions in the comments below, please, for what we can call this new district, because I don't know that Sheffield Downs is really what I'm going to be looking for. It's not a bad name, but we've got Oregon Heights in here, which is a new name for this place. I went with Monroe as the district name for our train station and college. I thought that seemed appropriate given, you know, Oregon, Monroe just seemed like a good little way to tie it all together into the map. And of course, we have the Red Dead Redemption theme for Blackwater itself, and then the suburbs of Valentine, Strawberry, and Rhodes, which arguably would probably imply that this district should be called Armadillo, Tumbleweed, or Saint Denis, or Ansburg, or Emerald. Emerald would be a good shout because it's a throwback to an old series of mine, as well as Emerald Ranch in Red Dead Redemption 2. I imagine, I don't know how much overlap there is between City Skylines and Red Dead Redemption, and I do feel slightly bad that I keep referencing things in that game in this series, but I'm such a fan of that game. I really, really am. And so I suppose that is going to do us for today. I am really happy with how this little space turned out. Like I said towards the start of the video, I didn't really go into this with any major plans. And wow, that's a lot of people getting off that bus here. That's fantastic to see. This is, of course, the new space that we just built that we're driving through right now. And well, the bus is having some trouble with that intersection apparently, which is not good. You don't love to see your bus struggling to get around a corner like that, but I'm sure they will. I don't know what. This bus driver's a maniac. Yeah, I like how this space has turned out. I actually love this little road right here. That looks so good with those apartment buildings. And I mean, they're pretty good in terms of density. That definitely brought a population very, very close to 20,000. Again, I'm not really aiming for, oh, we got an autosave going on. I'm not really aiming for 20,000. I'm not really aiming for anything. I'm just kind of building this as I go to see how it turns out. And so far, I think it's turned out pretty well. I hope you think that it's turned out pretty well as well, because I'm really having fun. I hope you are too. Oh, that's a lot of people. Oh, that's a lot of people. That's what I'm looking for. And they are all, the next stop, I'm pretty sure, is the bus station. They are all going to the bus station. Wow. Okay, that is fantastic. That is exactly what we're looking for. All of these people commuting into the city rather than driving. All right, good. Great success. That is what I wanted. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.